It's Friday evening. You're exhausted. That side project you promised yourself you'd finally start is sitting on your desk, but the couch is warm. So you make a perfectly logical deal. You will rest tonight, and you will tackle it first thing Monday morning. We have a standard script for what happens when Monday rolls around and you still avoid the work. We label it a discipline failure, a willpower leak, a character flaw you are supposed to aggressively grind your way out of. We treat self-control as a war against our own impulses, but framing it as a battle actually misreads how the human brain processes decisions over time. What if chronic procrastination has absolutely nothing to do with a lack of discipline? What if it's a much weirder, quieter neurological error? A team at Stanford University, led by researcher Hal Hirschfield, put a group of young adults into an fMRI scanner. They asked the subjects to make a series of simple judgments. Think about your current self, and then think about a famous stranger you've never met. This is a schematic showing a region tucked in the middle of the brain called the rostral anterior cingulate cortex. You can think of this area as the neurological boundary line between me and everyone else. It reliably lights up when you think about yourself. But an anomaly appeared when the researchers asked the subjects to think about their future selves. The activity pattern drifted away from me. The illumination faded, shifting straight toward the baseline setting established for a complete stranger. On a strict, measurable neurological level, the human brain files future you in the exact same drawer as a random person on the street. A week later, those same subjects took a classic financial test. They had to choose between receiving $10 right now or waiting to get a larger payout later. This scatter plot maps the results, showing a positive correlation between that brain gap and financial impatience. The larger the neurological distance between a participant's present self and future self in the scanner, the more heavily they favored the smaller, immediate cache. The data reveals a volume problem. The present self does most of the shouting, and those loud, immediate desires effectively drown out the future self until it becomes background noise. When your current self is the only one with a voice, the future version of you becomes an invisible entity, one that is incredibly easy to sacrifice for a quick reward. Decades before the Stanford brain scans, philosopher Derek Parfit wrestled with a related question. Since our selves turn over and our opinions change, what actually makes you the exact same person from childhood to old age? Parfit argued that personal identity isn't a strict yes or no state. It's a matter of degree. He described it like a woven rope, where the connections binding present you to future you can either hold tight or slowly snap and weaken over time. We now know specific environments weaken that connection. High stress conditions, being very young, or living paycheck to paycheck all put heavy tension on the rope. When the present demands all your attention, the connection to tomorrow naturally frays. If that continuity is heavily frayed, asking someone to make a sacrifice for their distant future is mathematically equivalent to asking them to give up their comfort for a total stranger. Apply this to everyday tasks. Saving money, hitting the gym, going to bed on time. These are all daily trades where you, today, suffer slightly so that a different version of you gets to feel good later. Humans are biologically wired to avoid suffering for people we don't feel connected to. If you don't genuinely know the person receiving the benefit, every one of those daily trades feels like a scam. Why would you suffer for a stranger? This changes what "I'll start tomorrow" actually means. It is not a scheduling strategy. You are deciding to dump a difficult bill onto a specific, tired human being who has the exact same couch, the exact same mood, and no more willpower than you do today. Procrastination functions as an end-of-fee gap. The beneficiary of your hard work remains an abstraction, someone you haven't been properly introduced to yet. The most important finding in this research is that future self-continuity is highly malleable. It isn't a fixed personality trait. It is a setting you can manually adjust, like a dial. In a follow-up study, researchers put participants into virtual reality and placed them in front of a mirror. The reflection staring back was an age-progressed, hyper-realistic version of themselves, decades older. The participants who stood face-to-face with their older selves allocated noticeably more money to a hypothetical retirement account compared to a control group. The abstraction became a distinct face. You don't need a VR headset to achieve this. Another study found that students who simply listened to a guided audio visualization of their future selves twice a week saw a drastic reduction in procrastination, accompanied by a sharp increase in empathy for their future selves. Lasting self-control relies on vividness. By making that future version of yourself emotionally real, you replace the need for discipline with the strength of a genuine relationship. You can start building this relationship tonight, at zero cost, by anchoring it to a habit you never skip, brushing your teeth in front of the mirror. While you stand there, use those 90 seconds to visualize your life exactly 1 month from now. Make the details rich and ask yourself one specific question. What does the me of next month need me to handle today? The old metaphor of self-control was a war against yourself, but highly consistent people don't white-knuckle their way through life relying on willpower. They rely on loyalty to the person they are becoming. Tomorrow you is not an abstract concept. They are a friend waiting on the other side of your decisions. The moment you stop treating them like a stranger, follow-through stops being a grind and becomes as natural as doing a favor for someone you love.